Hallo? Jeg hedder Lisa. Jeg hedder Karoline. Okay. The aim of this science fair project is to find out how smoking affects oral health, in particular to investigate the connection between smoking and the development of periodontitis, and to find out if the disease occurs more in smokers than in non-smokers. The reason we chose this topic is because we are very interested in teeth and oral health, but also because we would like to find out how smoking affects it. Many people start smoking knowing what's going to happen to their lungs, but do they know what's going to happen to their teeth as well? They may not realize that it's not only the lungs that are affected, but also other parts of the body, and especially the teeth. So with this science fair project, we would like to show what periodontitis and smoking has to do with each other. The way we chose to do this science fair project was to find information about the oral disease, and then afterwards we made an experiment that proved our theory was right. At first we will tell some basic knowledge about the experiment. First we will tell some basic knowledge about tobacco and lung diseases, and then we will change direction into what not so many knows about periodontitis and our experiment and conclusion.
Tobacco is a green leafy plant which is grown in warm climates. Tobacco comes from the leaves of the tobacco plant. The green leaves are picked, dried, and then rubbed into a brown flaky mixture that can be used in many different ways, like cigarettes. Nicotine is one of the more than 4,000 chemicals in cigarettes and in smoke. It's the nicotine that makes tobacco addictive or habit-forming. Once we smoke, chew, or sniff tobacco, nicotine goes into our bloodstream and our body wants more. The nicotine in tobacco makes it a drug. This means that when we use tobacco, it changes our body in some way. Because nicotine is a stimulant, it speeds up our nervous system, so we feel like we have more energy. It also gives you a little bit of an adrenaline rush. Not enough to notice, but enough to speed up your heartbeat and raise your blood pressure. About 70% of smokers say they want to quit and try to quit each year, but only 4 to 7% succeed without help. This is because smokers not only become physically dependent on smoking, but there's also a strong emotional dependence. This is what leads to relapse after quitting. Many smokers may link smoking with social activities and many other activities too. Smokers also may use tobacco to help manage unpleasant feelings and emotions too, which can be a problem for some smokers when they try to quit. All these factors make smoking a hard habit to break. Nearly 4,000 Danes die every year of smoking. Smoking is therefore the single factor that impairs our health the most. Smoking can cause a wide variety of different health problems. Cancer, cardiovascular diseases, and lung diseases are the main causes of death due to smoke. In addition, there are wide varieties of other diseases that are not lethal but decreases the quality of life. However, by now, most people already know about this and still smoke. But there is something that many smokers don't know about. They damage their oral health as well. Therefore, that's what we would like to focus on.
Before we start explaining about the oral disease periodontitis and how smoking affects the development of this disease, we would like to explain what a tooth, healthy gingiva, or gums, and gingivitis is, so that it will be easier to understand. Inside the tooth, there is a pulp with nerves and blood vessels. The pulp is covered by a layer of dentin. The tooth can be divided into two parts, the crown and the roots. In the crown, the dentin is covered by enamel, and in the roots, the dentin is covered by a thin layer of cement. The tooth is connected to the bone with small fibers. The fibers go all the way around the roots, and they end just where the crown begins, whereas you can see the gingiva or the gums goes just a little further and covers part of the enamel as well. Since there are no fibers between the gingiva and the enamel, a little firm pocket is made. The gingiva of the gums is healthy when it has a pink-light color and an orange-like surface. It is healthy if it doesn't bleed when you brush your teeth and if there is a good blood flow in the blood vessels in it. Gingivitis is an inflammation in the gingiva. During a day, a layer of bacteria named plaque appears on our teeth between the gums and the crown. If the plaque isn't removed and if it stays in our teeth for longer than 48 hours, then the bacteria start damaging the enamel of the gingiva. After 10 to 21 days of this damage in the teeth, it starts to get visible. The plaque will have turned into a layer of tartar or calculus in Danish, tandsten, and the gingiva will look more dark red and be swollen and loose where it used to be pink and firm. what causes this to happen is the immune system trying to fight the bacteria. It's possible to cure this inflammation since no fibers that connect the tooth to the bone were ruined at this early stage. If the tarts on the plate is removed and if the teeth are kept clean afterwards, then the inflammation disappears after only a few days and the gingiva will turn healthy again. The reason gingivitis is dangerous is because it doesn't hurt. It only bleeds when you brush your teeth, so it can be hard to tell if you've actually got it. And if the inflammation is not found and stopped, then the disease periodontitis starts developing. Early stages of periodontitis looks a lot like gingivitis. The only difference between the two diseases is that gingivitis only damages the gums, while periodontitis is a deeper lying disease that also damages the fibers which connects the tooth to the bone and the bone itself. This damage happens when the bacteria are left undisturbed for long periods. They are allowed to stay in the gingival pockets, thereby causing an inflammatory process to dissolve the fibers and the bone surrounding the roots. Even though it sounds realistic that periodontitis relieves a lot of pain, it actually doesn't, just like gingivitis. So it can be hard to tell whether it's just gingivitis or it's actually periodontitis, since it's not visible on the gingiva. Only if the disease gets very serious, then a recession of the gingiva and the bone will happen, and that's a recession. Then it's obvious what it is. But if it's in an early stage, then there is only one way that you can get the right diagnosis, and that is by measuring the depth of the pockets, the space between the gingiva and the enamel. If the pockets are around 3 mm deep, then it might just be gingivitis, but if the pockets are between 4 and 6 mm deep or more, then it is periodontitis. The worse the disease gets, the deeper the pockets become. The reason periodontitis is very dangerous is because it cannot be cured. Only the gingiva will be able to look normal again, but the bone and the fibers that were lost will very rarely rebuild. And as the process continues, then the teeth might be lost because enough bone is gone and then the teeth can't start anymore. Under normal circumstances, only people older than 30 years are likely to get periodontitis, but anyone can get the disease. More than 50% of the Danish population older than 45 years has got it. It's developing slowly over time, but there are two very determining factors besides the dental hygiene which affects the development a lot: genes and smoking. Periodontitis often occurs in members of the same family. Studies have found that children of parents with periodontitis are 12 times more likely to have the harming bacterial disease than other children. It has also been proved that up to 30% of the world population may have some genetic susceptibility to periodontitis.
Smoking is the single major preventable for periodontitis. This means that if you start smoking, it's yourself that is responsible for getting the disease more than your genes. The more cigarettes you smoke, the bigger the chances become to get the disease. Smokers are actually 3 to 6 times more likely to get the disease and 2 times more likely to lose teeth than non-smokers. When smokers breathe in the smoke, it goes down to the lungs. The lungs gas exchange happens where deoxygenated blood from the body enters the lung and delivers the waste products so that the new oxygen you just breathe in can be absorbed. But when you smoke, it's not only nicotine that enters the bloodstream, but the nicotine from the cigarettes as well. When nicotine enters the bloodstream, it is routed from the lungs and the heart and all the way around the body into every single capillaries and blood vessels, also the ones in the gums. The reason it's dangerous that nicotine comes into the blood vessels in the gums is because it makes them contract. And when they contract, the normal blood supply with white blood cells get weaker, and it's the white blood cells that help repairing the periodontitis. With less white blood cells, it would be easy for the harming plaque bacteria to get down to the root fibers and ruin them. It's possible to get normal gingiva again after periodontitis, but here the smokers are still behind once more. Because in non-smokers, the blood vessels don't contract since there's no nicotine in their blood. So if they start brushing their teeth well and make sure to get rid of the plaque, then the gingiva can start looking normal again, although they won't be able to rebuild the lost fibers and bone. But for smokers, it's different. Since their vessels contract, it's a lot harder for the gingiva to heal. If the gingiva is not nourished enough, then it's going to be very hard to cure the disease. And periodontitis is very hard to deny. And periodontitis can easily develop again.
And then we did an experiment. The purpose of the experiment was to confirm that the dentist books and the articles about the connection between smoking and periodontitis were right. For the experiment, we found 20 volunteers, 10 smokers and 10 non-smokers, and all of them were older than 30 years. We found the number of teeth for each person, and then we measured their dental pockets, 2 places in each tooth. We know that if we had to be 100% accurate, then we would need a lot more people to test on, but this was just to give an idea. And then we took our measurements and put them into two diagrams. And what we found out by reading these 2 diagrams was that in general, the smokers had fewer teeth than the others, and they were extracted because of periodontitis. The smokers had more deeper dental pockets than the non-smokers, and none of the non-smokers had dental pockets which were deeper than 6 millimeters, where many of the smokers had so. There was a lot more calculus and discoloration on the smokers' teeth, and the roots and the smokers were much more visible because of recession. And here are 2 pictures. The first picture shows just before we were about to measure the pocket, and the second picture shows while we were measuring it. And we can read on the dental pocket measurer that this pocket was 9 millimeters deep, and that is very severe periodontitis.
It's possible to conclude that smoking is a crucial factor for the development of periodontitis. The theories we read describes that smokers are likely to develop periodontitis because of the weaker blood flow in the blood vessels, causing yet white blood cells to help repairing the oral tissues. Other factors affecting the development of periodontitis is dental hygiene, amount of calculus, and genetics. The experiment we made supports the theories by showing that the 10 smokers had several and deeper gingival pockets than the non-smokers. We recommend stop smoking. It's never too late to stop the harmful effects on the body, organs, and all tissues. Periodontal treatment will have better odds in the non-smokers, and the chances of keeping the teeth are bigger. Then we would like to thank Michaela and Ellen for guiding us through this process. The 20 volunteers who let us measure their dental pockets, and the clinical assistant who helped us, and our parents for helping us a lot with the board and finding books and articles, but also for being very supportive.